Hello, and fantastic to have you here. Another session has come around. It comes around so quickly. Welcome to Nuts and Bolts. Fantastic to have you here. Now, we've got a great session on for you today. It's all about the 5 tips for new leaders. So if you just started your roles, just started your position, you haven't been in there long, and you're thinking, okay, you know, what's some good things to know going forward? These are 5 tips that are really going to set you up for success. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, number 1, get to know your team. Okay, so really, really important for you if you want to get to your objectives, if you want to get high performing teams, if you want to get results, you need to get to know your team members, get to know their strengths, their weaknesses, what they want to do, what they're passionate about, if they want to stream into a different part of the career, all those sorts of things going to be really, really important for you to move forward. So really important for you to make sure that you do management by walking around on a daily basis. So that means go and see your team members on a daily basis. Don't sit in your ivory tower or sit in your office all day and don't get to speak to anybody. I know we're time poor as leaders. I know it's really, really difficult, but this is going to set you up for success. So make sure you have time to do management by walking around, and that is going around and seeing everybody and just checking them out. And number 2, make sure you have regular one-on-ones with each of them. Okay, so you can have that opportunity to ask those questions, get feedback on your leadership, on how you're going, you know, what works, what doesn't work, all those sorts of things. Really, really important. So number 1, get to know your team. Big rule that we've got to make sure that we reiterate and we do it time and time again. Number 2, communicate. Okay, you might think that you're communicating really, really well, but let me tell you that people need to hear something or see something about 12 times before it actually sinks in. 12 times, can you believe it? So if you're at a meeting and you're saying, hey, this task is coming down the line, just want everyone to be aware of it because, you know, we're going to have to increase volume or redo bits and pieces or whatever it may be, make sure you say it in the meeting, put it up on the notice board, mention it in their one-on-ones, however you can, you know, if you're feeling like you're over communicating, that's perfect. Okay, so make sure you communicate, and then times it by 3. Because honestly, people just have what I call diminished capacity sometimes. So they've got so much on their plate, times are really busy, you're in peak period, whatever it may be happen. So their brain has only got a capacity to take a certain amount of information in. So if they're at diminished capacity, that means it's going to go in and then come straight out again. And we don't want that to happen because all of a sudden you have an expectation that this is going to happen. They haven't heard you correctly and you're not going to get that expectation taken place. So make sure you over communicate as much as possible in different ways. Talk about it in the meeting as a group, mention it in one-on-ones, mention it as you're doing your management by walking around stuff, put something on the notice board, a poster, whatever it may be, just to try and make sure that communication is really, really clear. Okay, so that's number 2, communicate. Number 3, lead by example. So you are the leader now, and as a leader, everybody is watching you. So I've said this story before, but I'll reiterate it again. I had a leader who would be looking after a team of about 12 people, and he used to come in at 7, not go home till 7, even though the normal working hours were like a 9 till 5. He worked through his lunch break. He didn't take tea breaks. He was always running around doing stuff. Now, when I spoke to his team members, they felt guilty about taking a lunch break. They felt guilty about knocking off at 5:30 when that was the normal knock-off time. So they would leave their computers on and leave their bag under the desk so it looked like they were still there. So all these behaviours were written because he was leading by the example. So when I went to this leader and said, hey, do you expect your people to take a lunch break? He said, yeah, of course I do. I said, do you expect them to do a 12-hour day even though they're only getting paid for 8? And he went, no. But because he was leading that, because he was showing those behaviours, they were all following him. So it's a really good watch out for you. Lead by example. If you want people to be open and honest, you be open and honest. If you want people to be punctual, you be punctual. If you want people to collaborate and share knowledge and skills, then you do the same thing. Really, really important. Whatever behaviours you want mirrored, you set the example. I hope that helps. So that's number 3, set by example. Number 4, In a team environment, we've got a saying called the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what I mean by that is, it is behaviours shown by people that you might find in your team. So we need to distinguish what the good, the bad, and the ugly behaviours are. We need to reward the good and making sure that we're recognising extra effort. If people go the extra mile, if people have, come up with a solution to a problem, and that's really great, recognise that effort and reward it. And it doesn't have to be monetary incentives or anything like that. It can just simply be recognition by you, their leader. So reward the good. If you see bad behaviour, then learn from it. Let's learn from it. So if there is confrontational conflict happening and it's unhealthy conflict, because healthy conflict is a good thing, but unhealthy conflict, then we need to action that straight away and learn from it. So how do we action it? We don't go into avoidance mode and stick our head in the sand, because whatever that ugly sort of behaviour is, you're just creating a new norm if you don't stamp it out straight away. So we set the line in the sand and we set our expectations and we have a courageous conversation with those people. And you are going to be nervous and you're not going to want to do it, and it's going to take you out of your comfort zone, and those things are all normal. So don't feel like you're the only person going through those feelings right now. You're going to have an emotive response. It's just how we manage that response, which is going to be really, really important. Okay, so and when we're talking about the ugly, this is something that we might have to move down a disciplinary line. So if somebody is being undermining, or if somebody is really, really not doing us any favors at all, that's really, really important. Okay, so the good, the bad, and the ugly. We reward the good, we learn from the bad, and we make sure we action the ugly. All right, and the last one is be decisive. So make sure you make a decision. Really hard for some leaders sometimes, especially when they've just gone into that role and they really struggle with making decisions. Oh, what if I make a wrong one? What if it's not popular? What if everyone hates me if I make this decision? All those sorts of things, you're going to go through that. And that's okay. But the fact of the matter is, if you can openly defend that decision, then you've made the right decision. If you've looked at the company policies, the good of the team and the good of the task, then that's a good decision to go with. Yes, you can go and get insights from your team. You can say, hey, we've got a task coming down. I'm thinking about going that way or that way. Would love your insights. What do you think? Ultimately, the decision is up to you, though. So that's up to you to make those decisions. But we have to make decisions as team leaders. That's what we do. All right, so I hope those help. Let's go through them really, really quickly. Number 1, get to know your team. Make sure you're not a stranger to them. Number 2, communicate, and then communicate again. Number 3, lead by example. Remember, they're watching you, so we want to make sure that we're leading by the right example. Number 4, reward the good. Make sure you're recognizing all the good work that people are doing. We've had some leaders that just stay quiet when people are, because they're saying, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. They're doing really well, I'll just leave them alone. Reward them, recognize them, pat them on the back, say that they're value adding and contributing really, really well. With the bad, we make sure we learn from that. We exercise our courage muscle and we make sure we do something about it. And the ugly, we get help from our HR people or our leaders, and we action that as well. And the last but not least is be decisive. So don't let decisions polarize you, or just don't go into avoidance mode when you have to make a decision. And don't go, oh, I'll make this decision because Johnny said so. Okay, this is your decision. So if it's good for the department, if it's good for the team, if it's good for the task and great for the long term, let's make that decision. Bang, down. All right, so I hope that helped. It's really tough being a new leader. You are embarking on a really, really tough journey, but it is a fantastic journey. And you are going to learn the whole way. So don't be too hard on yourself. You're going to have emotional responses. You're going to feel scared. You're going to be concerned, all those sorts of things. And that's okay. It's how we manage those emotions and still keep moving forward. And you're going to make mistakes. That's okay too. All right. So I hope that helped. Have a brilliant rest of the day. Enjoy your weekend. And we will see you next Thursday. Okay. So from us, bye for now. Cheers.